What's up, guys? Welcome to this new video here on Elvis is the Man. So in the late 1990s, a series of videos came out by Elvis's Memphis Mafia as they were recording in the early 60s. Red West, Sonny, Billy Smith, Marty Lack are some of my favorites from the group. They came together and they made some videos talking about Elvis's life, and at that time it was so hard to get your hands on some real in-depth Elvis stuff. This was like new info to me, and I was new to coming across books and stuff. I was pretty young anyway, but when this stuff came out, it was so just eye-opening, and hearing like behind the scenes things and events that took place in Elvis's life by these guys. Anyway, earlier this last week, I came across some of these videos again, and I came across the point in one of the videos where the Memphis Mafia really talk about what they feel killed Elvis. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse with this type of subject again, but this kind of intrigues me, and I think that, hey, if I'm finding this, certain topic kind of interesting, there's a lot of people out there that will also. So comment down below and share with me your thoughts on this matter. So as I was listening to this, I came up with like 3 things that I think if that would have happened in Elvis's life, it would have changed his life for the better. There's 3 things that I want to touch on in this video. But first, before I do that, listen to this clip that I found for you guys. I want you guys to hear what they have to say, and then we can form our own conclusions a little later. So we'll talk in 1 second.
He always had to have a challenge, and the cities, the tours, turned out to be the same cities over and over and over and over. And then Vegas, the same stage over and over and over and over.
Somebody asked me not long ago, said, what do you think really killed him? I said, I thought it was terminal apathy. He just
bored to death.
He became so apathetic that he became a parrot of himself. It was sad because he would go on stage and go in automatic pilot.
One night
All right, guys, so you just heard from the horse's mouths just what I've been preaching for a while now, over the past couple of years that I've been on this channel and on Elvis's Man Instagram, which has been even longer. All right, Elvis ran out of challenges, and there's a few reasons why, but let me just kind of go over what they said. All right, so it's like Elvis played the same cities, and there weren't too many highlights when he was touring. Okay, we already know Vegas was the same thing over and over. He did his first few times around America, but there weren't any big, real attention-getting venues that he was able to perform at, other than Boston Garden in '71, right? His first tour after the second engagement or the third engagement at the International in September 1970. Okay, that was a big thing because it was new, all right? And then in 1970, in November, when he did that on the West Coast tour, that's new, okay? But then he had to go back to Vegas in '71. And the point I was making was, other than like Madison Square Garden in '72, Boston Garden in '71, the LA Forum, maybe you could throw that in there in 1970 and 74. There weren't a lot of big venues he was playing to, okay? The Houston Astrodome, that was a big one, okay? But what I'm saying is, like, he could have been going like overseas and playing to large venues, right? Different fans, different audiences, right? The same cities, the same Vegas stage. And Elvis got very bored. For example, he really wanted to do movies, and in the late 50s, he did some great movies, like even his first one was pretty good, Love Me Tender. Then he went into better scripts with Loving You and Jailhouse Rock, and his best one, in my opinion, King Creole, right? All right, so after he got out of the Army, he wanted to go back and do that again, and he went into signing contracts, and eventually those scripts got worse and worse and worse, because I realized, why spend so much money on an Elvis film and the scripts and all that when it's already gonna make money anyway? We'll just have Elvis make the money for us and for our companies, and then we can go make the really good movies with other actors, because Elvis is just an easy money maker for us. Elvis got into a rut with the movies, and he lost inspiration once he realized he wasn't going to be really accomplishing what he set out to do. And that's when he had started to have the problems with the pills in like 66, 67, when he hit his head and was unconscious. And, his career started to go downhill. He was lacking enthusiasm. He was trying to fill the void with other things. And that was a problem, right? So we saw that, and that's just with anybody. You got to stay inspired and do what you want to do in your heart to do. And so then we see this problem again with the touring. He went to Las Vegas. That was cool. But after like 73, 74, he started to really hate Las Vegas.
You can't imagine the pressure and everything involved in being in Las Vegas for 4 solid weeks working, another week to rehearse, 2 more weeks after was kind of playtime, but 2 shows a night, 7 days a week. Nobody does that.
No, not anymore.
And that might kind of explain some things to people, the pressure that somebody like that is under, and we're under, not only with our families, but constant pressure from him, from the colonel, from everywhere.
Sure.
And from the audience, and from everything that's going on. You cannot imagine.
You know, the early parts of Vegas he liked in 69, 70, 71. After that, about 73, 4, and 5, man, he hated Vegas. He could not stand it. It drove him crazy. It was so hard, you know.
He always had to have a challenge. And
All right, guys. So there's their words, and here's mine. Here's 3 ideas I have as I was watching all these videos. Here's 3 things that I thought of that I think that if these would have been implemented in Elvis's life, if it were possible to inject these into his life, I think that these things could have saved him. I know this is all hindsight and this is all hypothetical, but this is sort of an interesting theory here. The first thing I think that would have definitely helped Elvis with his apathy, with his boredom, to give him something to be into. Because remember, when Elvis got into something and when he saw a challenge, he did it. Just like when he lost weight for Aloha, when he lost weight and got in shape and really started rehearsing for the 1969 Vegas comeback, and in 68 also for that comeback. We know that Elvis, if he felt motivated enough, he could snap himself out of anything. And at this point, I think a world tour starting maybe in 1971 when he was just starting to get bored with Vegas, I think that really would have snapped him out of it and gave him a new motivation and a new reason for proving why he was the best. He would have been able to see all his overseas fans and really realized how much people loved him, like seeing all different ethnicities and all different races of fans that he's touched around the world. I think would have really inspired him and helped him emotionally too. He wouldn't have felt so alone possibly.
Because I'm sorry, there's so many places that I haven't been yet. Like I've never played New York here, you know. I've never been to Britain either, you know. I'd like it to, yes sir. I'd like to very much. I'd like to go to Europe. I'd like to go to Japan and all those places. I've never been out of this country except in the service, you know.
Oh, Mr. Presley on.
Now here's another thing I really believe would have helped Elvis's life. If he was able to get a hold of the songs that really moved him, that really touched him, if he was able to record the songs that he really wanted to record. I mean, yeah, he recorded a lot of songs that he liked, you know, like childhood favorites, you know, things that he's heard growing up, but songs that really could generate a lot of enthusiasm for his career. Like, he really didn't have any hits in the 70s other than Burnin' Love. He had some top 20s and a bunch of top 40s, but if he could get a hold of material that he really liked, that he could sing, and that would make him money, his recordings would be making so much money that maybe he wouldn't have felt the pressure to be on the road so much, because in the 70s, really, he wasn't making movies. His records weren't selling like they did. He only had one #1 album, and that was Aloha from Hawaii. If he had albums and songs that were on top of the charts, which he could have, which he proved with Burnin' Love, his records would be making money for him, so he wouldn't have to be on the road so much. Because like I was saying, on the road, in concert or in Vegas, that was really his only income. That was the only way for him to generate a revenue. So he basically had to tour constantly, which, you know, added to the boredom that he was having. So I think that if the publishing rights and if the rules that the Colonel made and Elvis's publishing companies would have been relaxed, or Elvis would have bucked the system a little more, he would have gotten material like, say, from Dolly Parton and others that were trying to get him music that he really could have some hits from that would generate another source of income for him and also give him an ego boost to really be on top of the charts. Not to mention the satisfaction that it would bring his life to have a successful recording career and not be a top 40 artist.
I see. Do you have a favorite, Miss Presley?
Baby's Playhouse.
Uh-huh.
That's a good one.
That is
Don't Be Cruel.
Don't Be Cruel.
That's my two favorites. Don't Be Cruel, yeah, that's a good song.
Very good.
And all right, guys, this last one goes without saying. I think that if his mom would have survived, would have lived along with Elvis and not passed away in 1958, August, I think that Elvis would have definitely lived longer. I think he wouldn't have got addicted to the pills like he did. I think that for a few reasons. I think that, it was sort of, the pills were like a crutch for Elvis, I believe. They just masked and sort of put a Band-Aid on some of the hurts that he was feeling, and they were for fun as well, But Elvis's mom was somebody that he could talk to. He could talk to about his frustrations. He could vent to. His mom would comfort him. He wouldn't feel so alone and, isolated. I think that definitely if his mom would have been with him during the 60s and 70s, it maybe even have given him the courage to stand up to the colonel and not get in such a rut like he did with the movies and Vegas and the constant touring. Some people even say that if Linda Thompson would have stayed a part of Elvis's life, that she could have prolonged it, and I think this is probably the case. Who knows? Here's what the Memphis Mafia have to say on this topic.
Linda was with him for 4 years, from 72 to 76, and most of that time, she stayed the same all the time. She dressed flashy. I mean, Elvis loved for her to dress that way, and yeah.
And she went through, this was during a period of kind of going downhill. She went through some stuff, and she probably saved his life.
We've always contended, had she been there at Graceland when Elvis died, that she'd have checked on him and it never would have happened. She'd have got in there in time.
He had taken something one night in Las Vegas, and what do? He'd take these big green bombs, man, Placidel.
750 Placidel.
And after a while, probably more than that. And then he'd wait for them to hit. And he'd eat or read or whatever, and he loved to get that feeling, he would just sit there and go to sleep. And of course, she was always there to put him to sleep, make sure he was asleep. Well, he was eating an apple. He was laying down one night, eating an apple, and it hit him. And what he had in his mouth got stuck in his throat. He was choking to death, and she happened to be there, flipped him over, and did whatever it took, and knocked it out.
He was so.
Wait, 1 second. These big green things that they're talking about, or 750 Placidel, they're hypnotics.
You just call them green footballs.
Yeah, and that's what he was taking that would literally just knock him out. He could be eating, and it would happen so quick. When it hits, it's just within about 10 seconds, you go sound asleep. Go ahead, Lamar.
All right, guys, a video like this and a topic like this really can generate some strong opinions and get you thinking. So tell me in the comments what you guys think about my ideas, and we'll talk to you there.